grey market never lies. In the aftermath of Watches and Wonders, the numbers are in, and some of the biggest names in horology are already under pressure. A Patek Philippe that launched at £60,000 retail now trades for £120,000, while on the other hand a Tag Heuer dropped 20% before it even hit wrists. The grey market has spoken and delivered their real values, and they reveal which brands are commanding desire and which are sinking before they've even set sail. Let's take a look then at some of the prices that these new releases are hitting the grey market. Let's move on to the daddy of the watch industry, and that is Patek Philippe. Now, the Cubitus received a lot of media attention. You either love it or you hate it when it was released 7 or 8 months ago, I think it was. But one overwhelming opinion from the commentariat and collectors was, Patek, why the hell have you released it in a 43mm case size? You know, that's just very large anyway as far as wristwatches go in a standard round shape. But for a square watch, it's borderline ridiculous and completely unwearable, being a sort of baking tray on your wrist. So it came as a surprise to me that at Watches and Wonders just months later, it seems Patek responded to that and delivered this watch in 40mm case size. So the first entrants on the grey market are achieving or asking prices of astronomical figures. If we take a look at the 40mm white gold with blue dial, that carries a list price of £65,500 just over, and the first grey market prices we can see for these on Chrono 24 are £139,950, which is a dollar equivalent of 182,000 there or thereabouts. That's a 113% premium above the retail. And the case is very much the same for the beautiful rose gold variant as well. These have hit the market even higher at £149,600. Which is $194,500. Incredible figures there. The question that many would ask me, well, Vinny, is it going to keep that kind of trend on the grey market? Well, with Patek Philippe, the situation is very different to with Rolex. There's absolutely no way that this is going to fall below the retail, even with gold prices soaring. It's just the supply of Patek Philippe is considerably less than what the supply on the market is for Rolex. These prices will fall. These are the first prices we're seeing them hit the grey market at, and generally they settle thereafter. Where to is anybody's question, but one thing's for sure, they're going to remain considerably above the retail price, and I think, guys, for the foreseeable, probably even higher than the Nautilus as well, because this is Patek's novelty. And finally, the last major release from Patek Philippe this year was that beautiful Calatraa with salmon dial. For me, is one of the most beautiful watches they've ever made. A salmon dial on an entry time-only Calatraa piece is what we've been asking for, let's be honest, for many years. Now, the sad thing is that this isn't a steel watch. It's therefore a platinum watch, and thus isn't a entry-level piece at all, which I was disappointed to learn after I saw images of this watch, which means it carries a hefty price tag at retail to start with of $40,370, and on the grey market we're seeing these hit the scene at $69,950, a dollar equivalent of just over $90,000, which is a 73.3% premium. Incredible that we're seeing such premiums on a Calatraa. I mean, many of the Calatravas you can just walk in, put your name down and pick up within a couple of weeks. It isn't worth the premium unless you really like it. It's a platinum watch. It already sits very high anyway at retail comparably, so I'm sure this will fall below the retail a year and a half from now. Let's move on to TUDA. Now, we're used to TUDA delivering very interesting packages at Watches and Wonders. Traditionally, Rolex, over the last few years anyway, have been bland, boring, uninspiring releases, and TUDA tend to give us that satisfaction, and in many cases give us the watches that we've been asking for, but with a Tudor badge on the dial. Now this year it's been the other way around. Rolex decided to turn up, and Tudor therefore says, well, do you know what, this is going to be the year where I'm going to put my feet up and have a break and just sort of churn out a couple of watches with different dial colours and call it a day. So there's only really two notable releases which I suppose people are talking about, if they're talking about Tudor at all. Let's start with the all burgundy Tudor Black Bay 41. Now I did own one of these in my own collection with the black dial. This is a perfect watch. The case size, the specifications, the master chronometer, the retail price tag it hits the market at, you know, it's just a no-brainer really as a complete package. Added to that, there's the 5-link bracelet, or the Jubilee bracelet, makes this an even nicer timepiece. But for this new release, which comes with a red dial, really, it's not really burgundy, it's a very bright, almost Christmas watch. This carries a retail of $3,910 with that 5-link bracelet. The first ones we're seeing hit the grey market at £4,600. So that is a premium of 17.6%. Give this a couple of months, and as with all Tudors, this will absolutely, you'll be able to pick these up below the retail. Also, where Tudor are concerned, we saw a new dial colour for the very old now Black Bay Pro, which has all of the older specifications, that thicker case, the stubbier crown, and no master chronometer yet. This is priced at $3,730, and the first ones we are seeing hit the market less than that, so this is already an under retail proposition. I want to also talk about Tag Heuer. This is a brand which I admit I don't really discuss enough on the channel, but a lot of people are interested in. Look, Tag Heuer is of great importance to the watch industry because for most of us it is the entry point into Swiss watchmaking. It is the beginning of the disease that riddles us for the rest of our lives. Now, because it's that entry point, it's a brand that most of us forget about very quickly as we move up the chain to Omega and other watch brands. But I think what we're seeing in the last couple of years is a host of new releases from Tag which are very interesting. Their glass box Carrera line, and now the brand new Tag Heuer Formula One Solograph, which really pulls at the heartstrings of us collectors, because for most of us, the entry point into the brand was a Formula One, and therefore reissuing the watch that started this all off for us in brand new modern specifications, in a modern case size, 38mm, it's all very appealing indeed. But what turned a lot of people off was the retail price tag. So this carries a retail of £1,650. And I guess I was watching a lot of YouTubers rubbish this release purely on the basis of that price tag. Look, it's 1,650 quid, but comparably to Omegas and Tudors, it's a low priced watch. So if you want it as a daily wearer, this is going to last forever. It's a watch brand with such heritage and history. I look at this and I think, well, you know, if you want it, buy it at 1,650. But I was of the mindset, well, let's wait and see really what the grey market judges this to be worth. And it's clear that there's not going to be any waitlist for this, because the first ones are hitting the market at £1,230 is the lowest I've seen these sell for on eBay. The consumers have spoken, the grey market has spoken. Yes, this is probably too much at retail there, and perhaps this is a missed opportunity for Tag Heuer to create much more hype around this release, and that hype lasting longer, very much like the Omega Swatch collaboration. They could have done something similar with that if this was a sub £1,000 watch. There would have been waitlists, premiums on the grey market, and much more fanfare. Finally, let's quickly touch on IWC. They returned to Watches and Wonders this year with the Ingenieur being the center stage once again. This time we've got a host of new examples, a chronograph, a perpetual calendar, I believe, as well. But the ones that I was interested in were the originals, and these were the time-only Ingenieurs. We saw a brand new rose gold release, which is absolutely stunning. green, and also a green dial. I expected that the green one in particular would probably carry a premium. So let's find out. The retail price on this green dial Ingenieur in steel is £11,100, and the first ones we're finding advertised in the grey market sit at £11,600. So that actually means that dealers are paying less for this at trade price, and there's probably really not going to be a wait list on this for that watch, and likewise for the rose gold, which has a retail price tag of 40,000. We're already seeing these at less on the grey market. Just wait for these, given 6 months, even a year. If you're interested in these new releases, the best thing to do is to wait for them. And that's really it, guys. I think some of those premiums, particularly on Rolex and Patek Philippe, really draw into question, is the grey market as weak as we thought it was? There's clearly heavy demand for the Oyster Perpetuals, enormous demand for the Cubitus in 40mm. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Give us a like and do subscribe if you're new here, and I will see you in the next one.